Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei started a new era as the Sekiryuutei movie. Before we start, please go support AlexanderTaldeer for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Issei is a male. After the battle against Rizevim, the defeat of the Khaos Brigade and also preventing Trihexa from awakening, Issei lived peacefully with his girls. Everything was peace and quiet, but as they say, good things never last forever. Abandoned and forgotten by his girls, suffering the fall of the dragon, what will happen to the perverted beast known as Hyoudou Issei? Find out in this story. Pain, Death and Resurrection. Chapter 1. Pain, Death and Resurrection. Issei was waking up alone in his room since his girls had distanced themselves from him to the point that they had practically forgotten about his existence. A new day, another headache, Issei exclaimed in pain. That's how he had felt since the girls abandoned him. Partner, you'll be fine, exclaimed Drake, trying to comfort Issei because the pain he felt was horrible. It was even worse than being damaged by light spears or sacred swords. Even sadder was that Issei suffered it every day. After that, Issei took a shower, put on his uniform and went down to have breakfast, and there they were, them having breakfast quietly. Issei seeing them, his pain increased. A step in front of them heading to the exit, then he heard. Issei, aren't you going to have breakfast? Rias exclaimed with concern in her voice. Issei sent, come have breakfast with us, exclaimed the blonde ex-nun. Where are you going so early? Akeno exclaimed with her seductive tone as always. The moment Issei heard their voice, he felt a stab in his soul and in his heart, and he just said. I'm sorry but I'm not hungry, exclaimed Issei with difficulty speaking. Issei-kun, you don't look well, Irina exclaimed worriedly. Issei-sama, you look bad, Ravel exclaimed worriedly. It's nothing, Issei said as he staggered towards the door when he suddenly felt a great pain throughout his entire body that made him spit out blood. Issei healed himself with magic and then left, still exhausted. They were all alarmed when they saw the time before class. Rias and Akeno were leaving with their university professor, a boy named Kaido, brown eyes, black hair, semi-framed glasses and with a good physique. Asia, Xenovia and Irina got boyfriends in upperclassmen. Kaneko and Ravel were concentrating too hard on their studies. The only ones who constantly remained by Issei's side were Kiryu, Sona, Saji, Gaspar, Rossweisse and Tsubasa Yura. Giba was worried about his exams. Obviously also Mitsuda and Motohama, Drake and Vali and their companions. Underworld Council of Demons. Surziches was looking at two boxes, one with Ajuka Beelzebub's signature and the other with Michael's signature. Will I deliver it to him this afternoon in person? Surziches thought. Grafia prepares Issei's lands and asks Serafal and Azazel to create a mansion for Issei. The silver-haired girl only nodded before leaving the place. Isa's son. Our brown-haired boy staggered through the halls of Kuo Academy. It had been 6 months since the girls distanced themselves from him, and this was the first time they had noticed him, at least not well. Drake, what is this happening to me? Why did I feel like this when they spoke to me? Exclaimed Issei with a broken voice. The cursor fall of the dragon is killing you, exclaimed Drake. I see, then I'll die, exclaimed Issei. Naturally, because the dragon's curse kills the dragon, but since you have part of the power of Office and Gret, apart from that you absorbed by mistake the power of Trihexa as well as you are with Sona and Yura, this will make you die, but after a few hours you will resurrect, said Drake. I see, let's go to class, he exclaimed before entering the classroom. First you will have to do a ritual so that when you revive you don't die, again exclaimed the worried dragon. In the afternoon, Hyoudou residence. Issei was lying in his bed, overwhelmed by pain, vomiting blood as much as he could, while Drake asked him for one thing. Hang in there, buddy. After an hour, Issei was pale from blood loss, and at the same time he felt like death was snatching him away from the warmth of life as he fell to the floor dead. After that a few hours passed and then Issei began to rise in the air while black, gray, purple, red and green waves completely enveloped him at the same time that his boosted gear appeared and said. Overboost. Once that happened, Issei fell hard to the ground and then stood up with an icy gaze, a demonic aura that would leave the strongest trembling, and his hair turned wide and longer to his shoulders, and several strands fell where his eyes, his previously honey-colored eyes, were now gray without expression. His uniform became a set of clothes consisting of a black trench coat that when it reached the waist, it made a small cape that reached the ankles. In his hands, he had black gloves only up to the wrists, black leather pants, black leather boots, a gray shirt and an inverted cross hanging around his neck. Under his left eye he had black veins, and in front of it were two swords. What happened? Issei exclaimed, a little surprised when he saw himself in a mirror and looked closely and saw that his muscles had increased, but it was not exaggerated, it was normal enough to move with agility, run and jump without problems, and what caught his attention the most was his inverted silver cross that he had on his neck. Wow, I didn't think you were such a powerful companion. Well, for starters, when you died you left behind your fears, worries, pains, and that love you had for Rias, Gremory and the others has disappeared, but the love you feel for Sona, Citri and Tsubasa Yura remains intact, as does your love for Yusaka, Kiryu, and Valerie Teeps. Also, all your potential has fully awakened, as has the power granted by Office and Gret Red, and also the power that you sealed from Trihexa inside you. Braig exclaimed happily, his happiness crumbling when he saw his partner very sad. After that Xerxes appears and explains to Issei that he is an ultimate class devil and is no longer Ria's pawn. He also sees that the 8 pawn pieces are lying on the floor and then Xerxes also gives him the evil pieces and the brave saints. Xerxes explains everything to him about how to unite people to his entourage. He also explains that these evil pieces do not modify the origin of those who reincarnate and etc etc etc. Issei thanks him and Xerxes asks him why he has an inverted cross, to which Issei replies no bucking idea. Later that same day. Issei was exhausted, so he decided to take a walk around there. Poor thing awaits him. When he passed by a cafe he saw Rias and Akeno, with their teacher sitting talking quietly. Issei just raised an eyebrow and turned around disappointed. Rias and Akeno saw him, but downplayed it because according to them it was someone else, poor fools. Issei was dressed the same as before, earning unholy looks from the girls and envious looks from the boys. Issei walked aimlessly, but when he got to the park he saw Asia, Xenovia and Irina each with their respective boyfriends. For his part Issei just shook his head and continued on his way. When he walked through the lonely streets of Kuo at night he saw Kaneko and Ravel each with some boys laughing quietly. Issei just smiled and shook his head again. Kaneko smelled Issei's scent and saw the white-haired man walking calmly around. As night fell, Issei sat on some of the iron bars of a building watching Kuo at night. He sighed, just leaned back on a pillar, still high up, and fell asleep after 2 hours. Issei woke up because of the wind on his face and knew he was falling. He just spun in the air and landed without problems. Some people who were snooping around saw that and their jaws dropped. What a boring day, Issei exclaimed calmly. It's true, so boring that I fell asleep, said the dragon laughing. You always fall asleep, Issei said mockingly. They both laughed at the white-haired boy's comment. Issei headed home and went up to his room. He thanked Lucifer because the girls weren't there. Once he got in, he got some suitcases and prepared what he needed to go to his mansion tomorrow afternoon. The next day Issei woke up early, 4 o'clock. He took a cold shower that lasted half an hour, went down to breakfast, went up to tidy his room, took down his posters, deleted all his videos. Before that he put them in a flash to give to Mitsuda and Motohama, also his movies, etc. Once he finished it was 5:43 am. After that he changed for school and realized that he had his other look, so he took down his cross and his hair went back to being brown like before and his eyes went back to being honey-colored. How did you know that would work? Drake asked in amazement. I didn't know it just worked, said Issei without giving it importance. At Kao Academy before classes. Why did you make us come here, Issei? Mitsuda asked, yawning. Here you go, said Issei giving them his entire hero collection. When they saw its contents, they were surprised. 3, 2, 1. Hiya. The 2 perverts were heard screaming with excitement. Shut up, wake everyone up, Issei said, covering his ears. But why are you giving us this? Motohama exclaimed confused. Because I simply want to do it and stop the interrogations and save that bye, said Issei turning around, but when he did he collided with Kiryu, causing both of them to fall to the floor. Issei on top of Kiryu, putting his arms to the sides by reflex. This caused that for some reason Issei's shirt opened revealing his masculine chest and his marked abdomen. Kiryu on his Mars by reflex put his hands on Issei's masculine chest. It was uncovered. This made Kiryu blush as did Issei, because the position they were in was compromising. Something Issei ignored was that his junior had woken up and was aiming at Kiryu's womanhood, causing her to open her eyes and stifle a moan, causing her junior to wake up even more. It should be noted that Mitsuda and Motohama had already left. You like me so much that you get like this, said Kiryu with his usual perverted tone. Well, what can I say, you are very provocative, said Issei in an equally perverted tone. They both stood up and walked towards the academy, both were talking about trivial things. Everyone was surprised to see Kiryu and Issei talking so peacefully, because they remembered that Issei avoided Kiryu. Hey Kiryu, why when we went to karaoke with Issei, Kaneko-chan and my friends you looked at? Issei tried to say, but Kiryu came closer to his ear and said. Because I always wanted to see it, but now I could feel it, exclaimed Kiryu biting his ear making Issei moan in pain. Maybe next time I won't just graze him, Issei said with mischief in his voice. When Issei entered the classroom, everyone was surprised by his physique and his change in appearance, in addition to the fact that he was chatting animatedly with Kiryu, which they didn't see coming, because Issei avoided Kiryu as much as possible. The classes continued the same, no one was paying attention, but Issei just looked out the window distracted. The teacher, seeing that no one was paying attention, said. Look, I know you hate me, and you know what? I hate you more. So you guys do what you want while I go rest somewhere. If anyone asks where I am, tell them I'm reviewing some exams. Okay, bye, idiots. She leaves the classroom smiling. Everyone was silent until Issei said. Let the madness begin. Issei put a spell that made the noise from here not come out. And the classes went to shit, so everyone was exhausted because they threw everything, shouted, danced, that's right, gentlemen, they threw the class and the books out the window. And if you're wondering what happened to the other courses, it's simple, technically they're on summer vacation, but Issei's course, being the one that has the most fun, had to stay 6 more days. Days later, Issei's apartment. Issei was lying on his couch watching his 72-inch plasma TV, the apartment and other things courtesy of Surzich's. He was watching a movie, whatever you want, and when he finished he stood up and went to his room, took a bath, changed, ate and started playing GTA V on his PlayStation 4. I couldn't think of anything else. After playing he saw that it was night and went out for a walk around there. Ah, this is amazing, said Issei smiling, because nothing better than having your own apartment. At that the whole place turned grey, and in front of Issei appeared a man with a red armor with some black parts, his black eyes and his red pupils slanted, a very battered cape and a sword that was red, and its hilt was grey with a black eye there. Who the hell are you? Said Issei, getting into a fighting stance. I am Alexander, 4th god of the underworld, Alexander exclaimed calmly. I see, and what do you want? Issei asked, still suspicious. I just want you to do me a favor. Would you accept? Alexander asked. It depends on what it is, said Issei, lowering his fighting stance but still remaining cautious. You see, I am a god of dimensions where there are disasters, monsters, demons, vampires, and humanity is almost extinct in that world. Technological things do not yet exist. There it would be like 1893, except that their magic cannot be used, except for powers that you already have. You will become stronger than you imagine, Alexander exclaimed calmly. And why do I want to be stronger than I already am? Issei exclaimed, downplaying it. Because soon the limits and seals that we the gods placed in the deepest part of hell will be broken. Within 18 days, the archaic and divine magic will be weakened because Ragnarok will take place in another dimension, and then the exodus of the gods. This causes the gods in charge of giving power to the seals to weaken. I, as a minor god in the service of Athena, must come here and choose someone to help me counteract the great evil that is approaching, Alexander said with concern. Fine, but why don't you just give power to the seals and prevent them from breaking? Issei said again. Because my power is too weak to give power to the divine seals, he exclaimed with great concern. So why does that Athena come here and do it? He said, somewhat worried. Because she has her own problems, and Our Lady won't be able to come here, Alexander said sadly. Who is your wife? He asked. Andorra-sama, exclaimed Alexander in fear. Andorra? Is she strong? Issei asked, seeing the fear in Alexander's eyes. She is one of the 3 goddesses of creation and destruction, surviving from the previous exodus of the gods. Only her champion is the only one who rivals very closely the power of her or the other 2 goddesses, and surpasses the power of the biblical god, of course, if he were still alive, said Alexander, and you accept? Well. Of course, why not? Issei said calmly. 1684 years later, in the dimension Issei was sent to, 6 days in Issei's dimension. DSK, why didn't you tell me I'd be there for so long, said Issei calmly. Issei's appearance had changed a lot, and his character too. His hair reached his shoulders, while some strands fell on his face covering his eyes a little. He wore a wide black hat that covered his eyes. He had black leather pants, 2 pistols on his waist, a black shirt, and over it, an open black jacket. Over his outfit, a large black cape that covered his entire body, from the shoulders to below the feet. On his back he carried a bronze-handled sword. Under the hilt he had a red gem, and on the hilt he had a silver skull. The blade was like that of a katana, and shone blue, indicating that it was sacred. The outfit looks good on you, Alexander said to Issei. I had to. There were plenty of monsters, vampires, werewolves, witches, and this outfit protected me from that scorching sun, because otherwise I would get burned, because someone made me half vampire, said Issei, the last thing he said with an accusatory tone. And it was important because otherwise you would have been a simple human. After all, you can't use your dragon power, he said, defending himself. Anyway, I'm going to change, bye, said Issei, turning into bats and leaving. It was night. Underworld Castle, Grimmory. You can see Surzich's walking from here to there, nervous because according to what Ajuka found out, the seals placed by the original mass were weakening every day. At most in 2 days they were going to break, and the most dangerous demons from the deepest hell were going to come out. This is bad, very bad, this is terrible, said Surzich's, speaking to himself. Then Azazel and Penemu appear. Surzich's, you felt it right, said the leader of Grigori, very worried. If the seals are going to be broken within 2 days at the most, said Surzich's, worried because although the demons of the deep hell were as strong as an original Mao, Then the representative of the heavens appeared along with the Archangel Gabriel, the strongest and most beautiful of the heavens, accompanied by Griselda, the best exorcist. I don't know what their titles are, so I'm just kidding. This is very bad, if the seals are broken we won't be able to fight so many demons, Michael exclaimed with concern looking at Surziches. That's right, not even the three of us factions will be able to fight against all those demons of that level, Penemu exclaimed worriedly. If that happens it will be terrible, not only will the underworld and the heavens be in danger, but also the human world. At that moment Ajuka and Seraphol appeared, both with worried faces. What will we do? Asked Seraphol. The only thing left for us to do is to fight, gather your troops, the battle will be in 2 days, said Surziches worriedly. Well said they all in unison before leaving. How human world. Issei was walking around since it was summer vacation and there wasn't much to do. Ah how boring but it's nice to leave that outfit for a while, said Issei calmly. That's right was what Drake said. Just then Issei bumps into Rias and Akeno walking around. Ah Issei-kun was what they said when they saw Issei. What's wrong? Issei asked expressionlessly, surprising Rias and Akeno. Well Ani-sama has called us for a case of utmost importance, exclaimed Rias. Ah so the day has arrived said Issei leaving the place before whispering, this will be interesting. This surprised Rias and Akeno, who when they turned around to ask him what he meant, he was no longer there, they just asked themselves, what does he mean? At night Grimmory Castle. Everyone was there, Sona's entourage and Ria's entourage except Issei. Arias where is Issei-kun? Surziches asked confused. I don't know, he said he was going to come, but it seems he's not here yet said Rias. Well, never mind, let the meeting begin said Surziches looking at Rias and all the girls in her entourage with a look of disappointment. Rias, you don't know what awaits you, the Mau thought before starting the meeting. But Issei and Alex. This is very bad Issei today the cello is going to break said Alex looking at Issei with concern. It'll be fun anyway, he said, jumping from where he was. Well then. At that Issei inverts the cross that hung on his neck and a dark aura surrounds him and he just turns around and heads towards the Grimmory mansion. In the Grimmory mansion. Everyone present felt a chill run through their bodies as they felt that totally dark demonic power heading towards them. So you have arrived said Surziches at that the white-haired man appeared, his outfit is that of Astral Trinity, you have finally arrived as a candidate for Demon King Astral Trinity. Everyone except Seraphol, Ajuka and obviously Surziches were speechless. Sorry for the delay, I had things to do exclaimed Astral. No problem, Surziches exclaimed. If the meeting has just begun, Seraphol exclaimed before jumping into Astral's arms. Hello Serach-an said Astral kissing Seraphol. The meeting went smoothly because with the presence of the Demon King candidate there was a slight hope that they could fight off all those demons. Rias and her entourage looked suspiciously at Astral until he spoke. By the way Rias Gremory where is the Sekiryuutei I understand that he is a servant of yours, said Astral asking the dog I mean Rias. Ah well he said he was going to come, but I think he hasn't arrived yet he said while Astral was laughing along with Seraphol and Sona. Ah sorry, were you saying something? He said, turning to see Rias smiling while she had a vein on her forehead. At that Astral saw the clock and decided to leave with the excuse that he had something to do when he left Rias said annoyed. It's very hateful, exclaimed Rias, arms crossed. Rias, be careful with your words, even if he seems carefree, he is stronger than you think, not for nothing is he a candidate for Demon King, his power rivals mine very closely, said the Siskin I mean Surziches. At left Rias' entourage and the leaders of the heavens and Grigory stunned. The door then opened, revealing Issei, who when he entered made the most beautiful angel of the heavens and her queen of hearts blush, and the same thing also happened with Grigory's most beautiful and strongest cadre. Hello everyone, sorry for the delay he said, so that Vali, Kuroka and Faye appeared behind him, it's just that I ran into some friends. At that Kuroka takes Issei's right arm and puts it between her breasts and says. Just friends. That's all we are Naya said Kuroka pouting. You know that's not the case, my kitty, he said, stroking the Nekomata's head, angering and making all the women in the room jealous, and a big drop of sweat falling from the faction leaders. At that Surziches speaks and asks her to take a seat next to the leaders at the table just like Vali, the difference is that Kuroka is sitting on Issei's legs and Lafay is by her side hugging him. At that many explosions are heard outside and screams of despair, in the meeting a magic circle appears from it, comes a man with black hair slicked back, good physique, white complexion, white shirt, a black vest over it, on his shoulders, a black cape that only covered his back to the ankles, black pants and dress shoes of the same color, around his neck, he wore a white gem with black edges that was like an amulet, in his hands he had white gloves, and in his right hand, he had an open grimoire. Alex, what's going on? Issei asked, seeing Alex's serious expression. The seal has been broken said Alex exhausted. This left the mass, the overlord of the skies, the cadres, Rias and her entourage and Sona and her entourage, stunned by such words to the point that they were completely alarmed. "This is very bad," exclaimed Surziches worriedly. "You said it," said Azazel nervously. "What shall we do?" Michael asked. "Simple, all we have left is to fight," said Ajuka calmer than the others. After that they all headed north where the 10,000 renegade demons were previously sealed. Everyone left including Alex, but Issei stayed because he felt that something was going to happen there in the Grimmory mansion. His suspicions came true when he heard screams of despair from Venelana. Lord Grimmory died in the battle against Rizevim. Issei went where the screams came from and arrived at Venelana's room and saw 4 demons with humanoid shape and some deformed parts trying to devour Venelana. At that Issei launches himself against them wielding Ascalon, killing 3 of them while 1 ran away, but Issei summoned a dagger burning in a red flame that he threw against the demon getting a headshot. "Venelana, are you okay?" Issei asked worriedly, approaching her. When she saw him, she just hugged him and thanked him. Issei had to help his teacher, Alex, but Venelana insisted on staying with him, so it doesn't matter. With Alex and company. Alex was casting destructive spells everywhere killing hundreds of them, but it was useless because more and more always appeared. Meanwhile Surziches and Rias used their destructive powers against those demons. Serafal and Sona attacked with water and ice type attacks. Ajuka and Azazel fought against some demons hand to hand. Michael, Gabriel and Griselda fought against those demons, using their light spears and other powers and Penemu, along with Kuroka and Lefei used Senjutsu. Magic and destructive power against several demons. Rias and Sona's entourage took care of some demons who were trying to escape, but it was very difficult to face one of them because they were too strong for them. Vali, Bikwu and Arthur were fighting against demons that came out of that cave trying to stop them, but it was useless, more and more kept coming out. "There are too many of them," Surziches said exhaustedly. "The damned seem to have no end," shouted Azazel invoking his artificial balance breaker. Issei arrived flying at high speed next to Venelana, Surziches seeing that said excitedly. "Why did you bring my mother here?" Surziches shouted paranoidly. "She followed me, she didn't want to pay attention to me about staying in the mansion, so she came with me, even though I told her not to," said Issei with this expression. "And I imagine it's Issei." After that Issei and Alexander along with the help of the faction leaders managed to repair the seal, and with all that power, it would last 19 more days. After that all that remained was to be lucky not to die. 4 hours later. Everyone left except Issei who stayed with Serafal, Sona, Penemu, Gabriel, Griselda, Venelana and Surziches in the Grimmory mansion. "Issei-kun, you have become quite strong, and why are they here?" said the Siskin Surziches. "They are my nobility, Penemu my pawn, Gabriel my rook, Griselda my knight, Serafal my ace of hearts, Kuroka my bishop and Lefei my pawn," exclaimed Issei. "I'm his girlfriend," said Sona blushing. "Mother, by the way, what are you doing with Issei-kun?" Surziches said, confused. "Because I'm his girlfriend," said Venelana leaving Issei and Surziches KO. After a few hours of explanation Issei and his girls went to rest in Issei's suite. Night of Pleasure. Chapter 2. Night of Pleasure. Issei arrived at his apartment accompanied by his girls. As soon as he entered he heard the door slam shut. The moment Issei turned around he could see something he liked, maybe too much. But the bitch Issei Rias. Iridid and the girls in her entourage could be seen in Issei's house, well, ex-house, talking about trivial and unimportant things with their boyfriends, but something didn't please her, and that something was that astral trinity, because just when he left the seal broke, and she also distrusted that sorcerer Alex, although he was strong, at no time did he help to restart that seal. But those thoughts don't matter because Rias, Issei, the author doesn't care. Let's get to the good stuff. Lemon. Lemon skipped. Revelations. Chapter 3. Revelations. Issei woke up after such a night that he spent with his girls, and when he saw the time he just smiled and looked at his girls sleeping next to him, all in the same bed. Issei with difficulty began to wake everyone up after 16 failed attempts. He finally succeeded, but when the girls wanted to stand up but couldn't, their legs wouldn't respond. "Hahaha, I think I exaggerated a little last night," Issei thought, scratching his head. "Issei, look how you left us," exclaimed all the girls looking at Issei with a big smile. "Hahaha, I'm sorry about that, I think I got carried away," Issei exclaimed sadly. Academic Cow Human World. Alex was standing on the tip of an antenna looking at the landscape when Vali appears and sits next to him. "Tell me Vali, what's up? You're in these areas again, what brings you here? I thought you were by the dimensional gap." Alex asked Vali. "Nah, I found it boring to be there, besides Office wanted to come see Issei," exclaimed Vali reluctantly. "Hello Office Ama," Alex exclaimed, bowing. "Oh, it's you Alex Ama, how have you been? The last time we saw each other was at 1000 or 2346 years ago. Or around that time, right?" exclaimed the black-haired loli. Then exactly it was 3,996 years, 667 days, 86,327 hours, 186,436 seconds, but who counts them? Alex exclaimed laughing. They have known each other for a long time, exclaimed Volley in a mocking tone. It could be, and apparently Issei fell in love with Office, Alex exclaimed with a smile. It's not true, exclaimed the blushing dragon. That's what you say, but your blush says something else, hahaha, Alex exclaimed, smiling. At this fact the Infinity Dragon looked away, very blushing and thinking about Issei. Why are we here? Volley asked reluctantly. I am monitoring the barriers and boundaries between the worlds and preventing them from breaking, Alex exclaimed with concern. I see, as busy as usual, isn't it? Exclaimed the dragon, mocking as always. Ha ha ha, funny as always, exclaimed Alex mockingly. Issei's apartment. Issei was eating quietly while his girls were in wheelchairs moving around the place since their legs didn't respond to them. Okay girls, I'm going to school, see you later, exclaimed the brown-haired boy crossing the door. And what are we going to do for Issei's birthday? Venilana exclaimed with a look full of lust. At that Yusaka approaches Venilana and whispers something in her ear, making her blush and start telling the plan to the other girls. Twilight Zone. The atmosphere of this dimension is horrendous, mutilated and rotten corpses lay scattered on the ground. In the distance explosions and clashing swords could be heard. In the place where those explosions were occurring, the place where such havoc came from, there was a silver-haired girl with beautiful dark blue eyes. Her hair reached her waist tied in a ponytail. She wore a suit consisting of a silver blouse. On her shoulders, she had a cape of the same color. In her left hand, she carried a staff with a white gem at its tip, those used by magicians. In her right hand she carried a white grimoire with a symbol of a snake wrapping around a sword and a strange seal that said Carmina Quadam Exidium. In front of her was a pile of charred and decapitated monster corpses. Alex P, please, help me, save me. It was the only thing the woman said before fainting from excessive exhaustion of mana. Alex's palace, world of the gods. Alex was resting on a couch after being in all the dimensions of his jurisdiction, which took him about 1 day, and he did it quickly. Suddenly the brown-haired man hears a familiar voice telling him to save me. Shit, he exclaimed before summoning his grimoires and opening a kind of black metal door, full of magic seals or metal chains, reinforced with magic and dragon blood that said, whoever enters the cursed dimension will not be able to return. At that point his grimoire begins to scroll through several pages until reaching a specific one that said, I conjure dimension 666. I Michael Flavianum Alexander Ayres Familiaris Legio Virgilius Apostol Noctu Frangier Taldeer Malefici Generis Magni Sigilli Ratio Interi Permittis. Ne tenebri mortis est quam querier, et dejusit me were the words in Latin that Alex said before the chains disappeared and the seals vanished. After that a lot of spirits tried to leave, but Alex took out mandragora powder and used it as a smoke bomb that made the spirits turn into dust. After that he drew a magic circle made with mandragora powder, his blood, dragon and elven magic, and some moon stones. The sealer magic circle of restriction and weakening. Restrictive magic XVI. Don exigillum diaboli, said Alex before making his grimoire appear. Opening that dimension carries a great risk, you know that. Athena exclaimed from behind Alex. Yes, I know, was the only thing Alex said as he pulled his sword out of a pocket dimension. However, you have managed to open the dimension by yourself, and you even made a divine restriction circle, exclaimed Athena. The circle is not a divine circle or seal, it is a magic circle of restriction, which grants divine protection and retains the evil of a dimension like 666, Alex exclaimed, looking around. Wow, you did something that we gods can't do. Athena exclaimed, impressed just as expected from the best sorcerer in the universes. It's not just the fact that he's the best sorcerer, there are still things I have to reveal, Athena exclaimed, Alex grinding, some strange plants, and some manticore blood and some water from a water nymph. But why did you open dimension 666? Athena exclaimed worriedly when she saw her friend so worried. I have to rescue her, Alex exclaimed. To whom? Athena asked. My girlfriend was the only thing he said before jumping into the dimension. When he did it, he only grimaced in pain before summoning a phoenix and flying away. But what? Athena exclaimed as she approached the door where there was a stench of sulfur and putrefaction. When she brought her hand close to the door, her hand began to want to fade away. What the hell? She exclaimed, scared, looking at the door. Who are you really, Alex? Acadia Cow-Human World after school. A certain chestnut was walking calmly around there, Kakashi style, until he had the idea of going to a park to kill time. Ahahaha, what a boring day, the only good thing was this morning, said Issei smiling. What happened this morning, Issei? A certain Redeed exclaimed behind Issei in an authoritarian tone, and behind her were Keno and Asia. "Ah, it's you," Issei exclaimed, closing his eyes and assuming a thoughtful posture. "Issei-san, Rias-on sama to ask you something," Asia exclaimed, somewhat nervous about the brown-haired boy's new appearance and character. "Ah yeah, well in the morning nothing interesting happened, I was just reading a newspaper, solving the crossword puzzle, and watching an anime on TV, nothing else, well I'm going by was the only thing," Issei said before disappearing. Dimension 666. Alex was flying his Phoenix at high speed to rescue his girlfriend and sister. However, there were many problems ahead, and they were banshees. Ice's son. Issei arrived at his apartment and all his girls were looking at the brunette with a big smile, showing him the table full of delicious delicacies. "I really love you all," exclaimed Issei, giving each of the girls a kiss. "So my brother has become stronger," exclaimed a man with grey hair, black eyes and veins around his eyes, indicating the mark of corruption, looking through a spell at Alex flying in a phoenix, supporting the terrible power of the cursed dimension. Chaos and Old Enemies. Chapter 5. Chaos and Old Enemies. Dimension 666 with Alex. The sorcerer flew at great speed thanks to his phoenix, but it would take him a while to get to the girl he wanted to save. "Shit, if this continues like this I'll never get there," he thought. At that moment a strong blow from a fire spell made him fall to the ground, not hurt, but stunned. As a result the phoenix summoning spell was broken, causing it to disappear. "Hello, little brother," exclaimed a male voice in a mocking tone. "You?" exclaimed the sorcerer angrily. Dimension, DXD Con Issei. "Damn, the seal is going to break in a few hours and I haven't seen Alex for 6 days now. Damn, I must put an end to those damn renegade demons once and for all. I won't allow them to hurt my girls," Issei thought. At that moment a magic circle appeared from which a hologram emerged showing the most Siskin Mayu in history. "Hello Issei-kun," exclaimed the Redeed. "Ah hello Surziches," exclaimed Issei thoughtfully. "You took care of my mother, right?" exclaimed the Mayu somewhat nervously. "Ah yes, take good care of her, don't worry about that, and what's the reason for this call Surziches?" exclaimed the brown-haired man, coming out of the trance. "Ah well, the seal has been broken and well we need your help. Explosions are quick, we don't know, screams of pain, we don't know how much longer we can resist." Issei just opened a portal and told his girlfriends that he had to go help Surziches in the underworld, heaven, and the human world. Underworld. In the underworld everything was chaos that the mass tried to soften. "There are too many of them," exclaimed Serapho, exhausted with her battle suit on. Rias, Sona and Razor, each with their respective entourages, did what they could against all those renegade demons. "We won't be able to fight them all," Razor exclaimed, exhausted because the moment he killed one, 4 more came out. At that moment Astral appeared. "Bye-bye," exclaimed Astral, smiling. "Astral," everyone exclaimed in surprise. At that moment he creates a dark sun. "Well, let's stretch our bones a little," exclaimed Astral, taking off his cape and jumping onto the battlefield. The moment he did so, a bunch of demons pounced on him. In a quick movement Issei jumped into the air doing a triple spin, throwing multiple purple spheres of power, creating strong explosions, killing hundreds of demons in one go. Behind him, a demon wanted to pierce his back with his enormous claws. At this Astral turned back, piercing the demon's heart, then 17 demons appeared in front of him, to which he only stretched out his hand and disintegrated most of those demons. After that he said, "Well, here comes the Sekiryuutei, they don't need me anymore," he exclaimed, doing a backflip, but not before making 700 renegade demons disappear with the help of his black sun. When he went astral he became Issei, deforming his cross while putting on a white shirt. Over his shirt he put on a black jacket, leather pants and black leather boots, while he put on his cape, similar to Surzich's but black, and put his sword on his back and put the experiments that his Azul gave him. Dragon Ice, Y Dragon Fire. I will use them as a last resort since they consume a large amount of mana and magic power. At that a bunch of bats appeared flying, which made Gasper nervous. When all the vampires gathered they saw Issei, who had an icy look. When that happened a Lord of Chaos came out of the cave. "Paxius, so you were sealed here?" Issei exclaimed in a mocking tone. "Hyoudou Issei, you'll pay me for locking me up here." The demon exclaimed in fury before flying out at Issei with a sword with a black edge. Issei drew his sword and stopped such an onslaught with his own sword. At that moment a huge explosion occurred, leaving a large crater in the ground where both contenders were standing. At that Faxia spun around with the intention of hitting Issei in the face. He put his right forearm to cushion the blow, but was forced to fly away. "Not bad," Issei exclaimed, cracking his arm as he wielded his sword, running at supersonic speed, performing an upward slash that Faxius dodged by jumping backwards before he fell to the ground. Issei jumped and kicked him in the stomach. Very slow, you are very slow, you have become obsolete. At that he grabs Faxius by the neck and threw him against a rock. What happened? Where was that anger? Damn crybaby. At that a huge explosion occurs showing Faxius really angry, emanating a silver aura. Ha, get angry and let me enjoy this fight a little more, exclaimed the brown-haired man wielding his sword, jumping as he plummeted down, pointing his sword at Faxius. You think that's what will stop me? He exclaimed, flying against Issei, wielding his sword against Issei's sword. At the moment the explosion occurred, everything around was thrown back, including the mass and the three entourages of Razor, Rias and Sona. Intervening Issei attacks with ascending and descending thrusts and diagonal cuts and thrusts that Faxius stopped with the help of his sword, but also counter-attacked with his chaos powers that Issei repelled with his own powers. But Alex Dimension 666. Alex was barely standing with his grimoire in his right hand and much of his clothes burned and torn. You are strong, brother, exclaimed the other guy with laughter. At that moment the fog in the air revealed a girl wearing a white skirt to her knees and white tights lying behind Alex, who was really exhausted to the point that she was unable to move. I won't let you touch her, damn it. Alex exclaimed angrily towards his older brother. What's wrong, do you love your own sister? You really are a sick person. Exclaimed the necromancer laughing. Shut up. At least I didn't kill my entire family for some stupid lust for power, and if I love her the way I do, it's my problem, not yours, and I'm also the only family she has left. No matter what, no matter how, I'll be by her side. I've already lost her for 10 years, I won't lose her again. Alex exclaimed angrily. And I, damn it. Exclaimed the other guy, creating a large black sphere of destruction. Ice's child. Both contenders were breathing heavily and had serious injuries on their bodies. What is happening? Faxius, you're exhausted, Issei exclaimed with difficulty. Ha, look, you can barely stand up. Faxius exclaimed laughing. And that you see how this begins to create a large mass of purple energy. Disappear. He bellowed before launching a gigantic purple sun impacting against Issei and creating a strong explosion. Dimension 666. Damn it, exclaimed that necromancer before launching that attack. Alex took out his grimoire and began to recite a spell. And the power of the buried is the Preterita, is now a salvo, the sigil of me, and the potential of the true ascension. Damned, he exclaimed before being wrapped in black and red flames and beginning to levitate in the air with his eyes wide and dark veins under them. When he finished, his appearance changed drastically. Ice's child. Before that attack touched him he summoned a skull with a lock inside. In the past, I was freed from the seal, today I will break the seal, I invoke the celestial power and dominate the power that I have for me, the darkness of purgatory, I judge you, the power of judgment, the power of the dragon, I let go once, Issei said that, a silver one appeared that enveloped him. Issei. I won't let you cause any more harm. Alex. I won't let you kill Michaela. Both. You will die here and now. Dimensional Cataclysm. Chapter 5. Dimensional Cataclysm. Issei. I won't let you cause any more harm. Alex. I won't let you hurt Michaela. Both. You will die here and now. Ice's child. After saying that, Issei launched himself at Faxius, giving him a large upward slash that he could barely dodge, but he didn't dodge the kick he received in the face, sending him crashing into the ground, creating a large crater. Come on, don't tell me that's your limit. Issei exclaimed, putting his sword on his shoulder. In that crater where Faxius was, a large red explosion occurred showing Faxius in red armor covered in flames. At this Issei just smiled and prepared his sword. Let the fun begin. Issei exclaimed, emanating a blue aura and some blue rays covering him. On Alex. Do you love your sister that much? Well, I'll give you the pleasure of dying together. Tyrone exclaimed, emanating a completely black aura. At this Alex began to emanate a purple aura as he gripped his sword tightly. Try it and we'll see who ends up dead, Alex exclaimed, throwing himself at Tyrone. Tyrone, being off guard, received a powerful downward slash and then a blow to the stomach. Shit, he's gotten faster, thought Tyrone. I'll repeat it to you one more time, go or die. Alex exclaimed, taking out his grimoire, but it just levitated in front of him. I will never leave until I destroy you all, exclaimed Tyrone while emanating a truly nefarious aura. But Pandora. What is that nefarious power? She thought. Tyrone whispered Athena nervously. Is that Tyrone's aura? What a rotten power. Exclaimed a chestnut tree next to Pandora. What did you expect? Issei is the disciple of the first god of the great darkness, whom you as the first god of divine darkness must defeat. Pandora exclaimed, sitting on the chestnut's legs. I know, love, I just have to get used to Astral's power and see if I can be a rival against Last Trinity, however it is written. I know that the you from my dimension is quite strong and handsome, as well as good at hand-to-hand combat and with weapons, exclaimed Athena remembering Issei. It's interesting to know that my selves from the other dimension are so strong, exclaimed Issei calmly. You must go meet them, good luck, and remember not to die against the Nova Pandora exclaimed with a fake smile. I know you want me to stay, but duty calls exclaimed Issei giving Pandora a kiss on the lips and Athena a hug. I'll say goodbye to the girls or they'll get hysterical. He said the last thing with fear before disappearing in a flash. Back with Issei. When both enemies got ready in the blink of an eye they started going against each other, sending a lot of cuts and blows against each other, with the intention of killing the other. The two with each blow they gave, created a large crater beneath him, and strong gusts of wind around him. At that moment Phaxius launched an incendiary ray at him, which in its wake reduced much of the land to ashes. Issei reacted by using his sword as a wall, managing to resist the attack. Impossible, Phaxius exclaimed in surprise. For me the impossible is possible, exclaimed Issei raising his right hand when a strong blue lightning bolt fell on it and launched it at Phaxius. I dodged this one easily but not the others. Then behind Issei appeared storm clouds that launched thousands of lightning bolts against Phaxius, leaving him exhausted as he had to cover himself with his chaos power materializing a wall of chaos energy. Issei just smiled as he watched Phaxius still standing, proving to be a worthy opponent. Not bad Phaxius exclaimed Issei. Well now it's my turn he exclaimed, beginning to raise his aura. On Alex. Tyrone launched himself at Alex, firing a powerful dark ray that Alex countered with his storm ray. Alex used his ring of fire to keep Tyrone at bay, he used his dark power to create an unholy aura, an aura that resembled the ring of fire around Alex, who was in front of Michaela. Hold on, I'll save you Alex exclaimed, looking at the girl out of the corner of his eye. Hold on, Lady Erika AlexanderTaldeer. After that Alex summoned his phoenix. And Tyrone to his chimera. Alex we'll see. Tyrone who? Alex is him. Both stronger. Ice's child. The battle was quite even for both, speed, strength and skill kept him in the fight, given the enormous power of Phaxius. Issei was beginning to run out. Damn if this continues like this I'll lose Issei thought TSK since. And that he deactivates his power. What does it matter if I have to use her power? Issei thought, grabbing the cross where he sealed Trihexa. I who have awakened. It started, it's going to start again. At this, everyone present was astonished, believing that he was going to use the Juggernaut drive. Issei stopped were Ria's words. But Drake's gauntlet didn't appear, instead the silver cross shone quite brightly. I am the true dragon that destroyed all of God's creation. I will end domination and supremacy, I will destroy the dream and the infinite. I will become the true dragon of the apocalypse. Juggernaut drive apocalypse. After that a new armor appears in Issei. Everyone present was astonished to feel that immense power from Issei, a power that was really the same as Trix's. Well let's start with this exclaimed Issei with black eyes. On Alex. Tyrone made his cursed ascent, ending up like this. You won't be able to beat me exclaimed Tyrone smiling. We'll see. Through this chant I release the seal and free the demon. Grant me your power and I'll grant you mine. Insanity ascension at that moment Alex was engulfed by black and silver flames haha, we'll see if you're as strong as you say, scoundrel. Alex's appearance changed to a more somber one. It can't be, Tyrone exclaimed, you should have died. Hahaha you're right, I should be, but here I am, alive like never before hahaha now let's end this senseless battle, Alex exclaimed smiling. Hahaha you are confident, but you won't beat me exclaimed Tyrone. We'll see Alex simply said. Back with Issei. Which will be stronger, chaos or apocalypse? Issei exclaimed, smiling. Well, we must find out, Phaxius exclaimed confidently. Both of them launched themselves against the other Phaxius using their sword and Issei summoning his own. When both swords collided, 4 imposing auras could be seen. Issei's aura was black with blue, and Phaxius's was red with purple auras that created great pressure in the environment. Both are shot out in opposite directions, levitating. Issei begins to generate a large sphere of apocalyptic energy, while Phaxius generated a large sphere of chaos energy. Both attacks, upon colliding, cause a strong explosion that takes everything in its path, causing the faction leaders to create an energy barrier that barely withstood the impact. When the dust cleared Phaxius could be seen dead and Issei standing with a serious face in front of him. You fought well, but your destiny was already written when you faced me were Issei's words before his armor disappeared and he fell to one of his knees. And that he feels that strong waves of multidimensional fluctuations are present, indicating that the boundaries of the dimensions and the mindscape are merging with the existential and earthly plane, and there is a danger that the astral plane will become present. This is bad, very bad Issei thought, sweating profusely, but he couldn't move because he had no strength left. Issei were the words of a certain redeed. Damn what I was missing Issei thought annoyed. On Alex. This one was in front of Tyrone who was covered in cuts, scratches, burns and swords stuck in his chest. You lost, said Alex smiling. This won't stay like this, insanity, Alex exclaimed, Tyrone disappearing. Coward, exclaimed Alex, returning to his original form. Shit, every damn muscle hurts. Then he turns around and sees Eureka. Shit, I have to save her. He exclaimed, spreading his black wings. Then he flies with difficulty towards Eureka. I have no more strength left, summons his heralds. Get her out of here, Alex exclaimed with difficulty. But what about you, Alex Ama? They asked. Forget about me and save her, take her to Catherine Lee Arcania, the Arcane Kingdom, and the magicians will be able to cure her. Alex exclaimed, sitting on the floor. Save her. Yes sir, they exclaimed, taking Eureka. I hope I don't die here, but if that happens, don't give up. Eureka, fight until the end, Alex thought. At that the whole dimension begins to shake. Wow, the overwhelming power has caused serious damage to the dimensions, Alex thought. Since I can barely move, I hope that at least Issei knows that you can fight this. Collapses. Arcana. Chapter 6. Arcania. Wow, the overwhelming power has caused serious damage to the dimensions, Alex thought. Since I can barely move, I hope that at least Issei can fight this. Collapses. Ice's child. He was being treated by Asia, who was healing his wounds, but despite this he was worried. He knew that the overflowing power must have caused havoc everywhere, especially among the boundaries between dimensions. The most damaged must have been the underworld and some other dimensions, but that did not take away the fact of how worrying this matter was. The dangerous thing was that if the sealed beasts come out, that would be a real problem. You're already cured, Issei-san, exclaimed the ex-nun, looking at Issei, who was very thoughtful. Is something wrong, Issei-kun? Akeno asked, worried about Issei. If nothing happens, Akeno, Asia well stands up. I have to go do something. Having said that, Issei turns around, heading somewhere. Forbidden dimension. The ground where Alex was standing was breaking as a result of having done tremendous damage to the dimension, damage that would end up collapsing the dimension. SSSSSS, the whispering of a snake was present. SSSSSSS, the whispering of another snake was also present. Two snakes, one white and the other black, began to climb onto the neck of the half-dead sorcerer. Ice's child. He had arrived at the dimension where his teacher did research, potions and more, but his surprise was great when he saw a gigantic door in the place. Aren't this, he thought to himself as he entered through that door. The moment he did it, his body experienced a horrible feeling of pain and agony. What the hell is this place, said Issei, falling to his knees on the ground while his eyes and mouth bled. Partner, you must use the power of Trihexa, said Drake to Issei, who inverted his cross on his neck, granting him part of the power of the apocalypse. Much better, said Issei, moving more freely around the place. In the distance, Issei saw Alex lying on the ground next to two snakes, which changed from snake to human appearance. The white snake. The black snake. We must charge him, his powers are below the ground, said the albino, who looked at the sorcerer with his energy on the ground. You're right, Maria, we should give him all the energy we can at least, so he can stand up and come out of unconsciousness, said the blonde. Darkness, even if we give him all our energy, we can't even regenerate a third of his power, so we'll have to bite him, said Maria, seriously looking at Alex, who showed no signs of waking up. Both women opened their mouths slightly, showing long fangs, and then crouched down where Alex was and bit his neck, giving him a strange purple power. Issei looked at this and decided to approach, and when he did, he saw the two women bite his master's neck. He wanted to do something, but he saw his master open his eyes slightly. An was the only thing the sorcerer said as he opened his eyes slightly. The two women smiled and turned into snakes again, snakes which climbed up her arm and settled on Alex's neck, whose eyes were barely open. What the hell happened? Alex whispered, somewhat dazed by such exhaustion. Well, it seems they had a good battle around here, said Issei, looking at the place that was in 1,000 demons. Issei, said Alex, standing up with difficulty. What are you doing here? Well, I went to look for you in your laboratory, but I didn't find you. To be honest, there was no sign of you. To be honest, I was surprised to find that huge door right in the laboratory, but knowing you, nothing strange would be the case, said Issei, helping to stop the sorcerer. DSK, anyway, we better get out of here, this place is about to collapse, and if we stay here, it will be a bucking problem, said Alex, being surrounded by a strange black energy that made them disappear and appear in the laboratory. What the hell, Issei thought when he saw that they had appeared in the laboratory. Okay, to all this Alex opens a hologram of the dimensions, notes, alterations, disturbances etc. So he noticed that several of these were at risk of colliding with many others, and that was causing him a headache. TSK. Having said this, Alex places his hand on the ground and seconds later hooded subjects appear and then disappear. What was that? Issei asked, looking at a pink potion. My immortals are my third-class elite soldiers. Looking at some reports, and try not to knock down that potion, it turns you into a woman. Crash. Alex turned around and saw Issei with the pink liquid of the potion on his feet and a pink cloud of energy. Should Alex thought grabbing a grey potion and breaking it on the ground, creating a grey cloud that nullified the pink cloud, but then the pink cloud had covered Issei shit squared. Then what happened? A soft female voice was heard. When the cloud dissipated, a brown-haired girl with hazel eyes, wide and fine skin, cup breasts and shapely legs was seen. The potion took effect, Alex said, not showing any perversion, writing it down in a blue notebook. Now you are a woman, Issei. Issei was going to protest at those words, but felt a weight on his chest area, which made the brunette hunch over. Well, where did I leave the antidote? Alex wondered, searching through an endless number of potions of various colors. The first thing Issei did was run from one side to the other screaming, the second thing he did was move his breasts up and down, third the same as the first. Stop screaming, drink this potion, said Alex taking out a blue potion, but a drop fell to the ground, causing it to melt. I won't drink that, she said, stepping back. I didn't ask if you wanted it or not. He steps on her foot causing a scream and forces her to drink the potion, which in an explosion of blue smoke turns Issei into a man again. Don't play with my potions again, one of them turns you into a ghost, and believe me that until now I don't know how to reverse it, and that pink potion that you drank would cause your mind to debate how to think as a man or as a woman, but the blue potion will take away your shadow. Said and done before Issei said anything, his shadow separated, revealing the same brunette, only she was naked. Press her, she's your female version. The truth is, the pink potion has no antidote. I know because I created it and I tested it. Alex said, taking out thousands of papers, comparing one with another. But then why aren't you a woman? Said Issei, covering his female self with his jacket and a shirt that was there. Well, that's simple. Alex's shadow separates, revealing a woman with dark brown hair, deep blue eyes, cup breasts, and curvaceous. She is Mika. Having said this, Alex went back to reading some papers. Hello, nice to meet you, said Issei smiling. Whatever, said Mika, looking at his alter ego reading some papers. Well, Mika, Issei and the female version of Issei, we're leaving in an hour to the dimension where a person and Princess Taldeer are. Well, I'm going to get my suit, said Alex, looking from head to toe, showing off his burnt ointment-like suit with cuts. 1 hour later. Issei had put on leather boots, black pants, a white shirt and a red trench coat. The Sara, femme version of Issei, fell asleep in Issei's house. Alex put on black shoes, black pants, a black shirt, over it a sapphire blue vest, his sapphire blue pendant, amulet on his neck as a tie, hair sent back revealing a kind of V, black cape above and dark blue underneath, his small Grimmory in his right hand and a red ring on his left hand. Okay, are you ready, Issei? Said Alex, looking at Issei, who nodded. Yours, Mika. I have no other choice, he said pessimistically, looking at Alex, who had a twitch in his eye. Okay, let's go before someone kicks out of here. He opens a portal and you can see a place lost in time, so to speak, because the buildings gave signs of being from the Middle Ages or something like that, but there were many magical things. And this place? Issei asked, admiring the place. Welcome to Arcania, he said with a lump in his throat. Because that tone makes you seem worried about something, master, said Issei, looking worriedly at Alex. Long story. Walking, Mika also seemed worried, very worried, because she knew what would happen if they found the magic council around here. Issei chose not to investigate further, so he decided to follow them. While they walked, some people looked at Issei strangely because of his way of dressing, but well, it was normal if you go from one dimension to another. Hey, doesn't that guy look familiar to you? Looking at Alex. Yes, he looks like the traitor Grand Marshal, said an old man. Yes, too much, more people said. Issei felt uncomfortable at this because he didn't know what was happening. It's the catch him, said 30 guards, pointing at Alex, and fired different magic towards Alex and his two companions. Dark art, dome of darkness. With that said, a dome made of pure darkness covered them, protecting them from the imminent attacks. Leftovers art decapitation. After saying that, behind all the guards a sickle appeared and decapitated all the guards. Let's continue, said Alex, passing through the corpses without fear or disgust. Issei walked and saw how all the people walked away from where Alex was going, to which he only asked himself, what the hell happened here? Another place, Arcania Palace. Then I feel your energy, said a woman with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a killer body sitting on a throne. What do you mean, Ni-chan? Said a black-haired man with black wings, a cold and serene look with a stoic character. He's back, after all. He has the audacity to come, go and stop him. I won't let him enter the palace, said the blonde, clenching her fists. I'm fine, Ni-chan, said the black-haired man, disappearing in a magic circle. Damn you dare to come back after you left. Hits the wall, breaking it down. Is something wrong, Mom? Said a boy with white hair, cat ears and tail eating fish. No, nothing, baby, go rest. And what are you doing in your Hyoudou mode? He said with a giggle. Then it's comfortable, he said and went to sleep. The XD dimension. The damage caused during that guy's battle against Issei was quite large. The truth is, they still couldn't believe that such power would create cracks everywhere. What a problem is going on here, Surziches thought tiredly, looking at cracks all over the underworld. How much power do they have? He thought again to himself. Ani-sama, have you seen Issei? Rias asked, since she hadn't seen the brunette since he went his way. I haven't seen it, Rias honestly said Surziches sincerely, because he really hadn't seen it after the fight. Well, thanks Ani-sama, said Rias, and left lost in her thoughts. Another place. Benalana was cooking something for Issei when he returns from his mission, because he would surely be hungry. Now I want Issei-chan back now. Serafol exclaimed, pouting. It will come, be patient, said Benalana, continuing with her work. Back with Issei. Well, why did I come here? Said Issei, looking at Alex. Simple, to start your turtle that says training, said Alex, smiling. I'm scared, Issei thought. Days later in that dimension, a day in that dimension is seconds in DXD. And Issei was seen with a rather imposing aura surrounded by black energy. I've mastered antimatter, good night, falls unconscious. At this Alex smiled. Never faint in my presence, Pro Alex said, painting a dick on Issei's face. Awakening powers. Chapter 7. Days later in that dimension, a day in that dimension is seconds in DXD. And Issei was seen with a rather imposing aura, surrounded by a black energy that swayed throughout his body. Well, as you progress you will be able to unlock more levels and improved versions of your darkness armor, deactivated, said Alex, sitting on a rock. Issei deactivated his dark mode, that's what that ability is called, where Issei is surrounded by darkness and falls to his knees, breathing heavily. The exhaustion is quite high, Issei exclaimed, clearly exhausted. What did you expect? It's a power created by the dark gods to counteract the sacred mode of the gods and their champions, said Alex, observing Issei, who was exhausted on his knees. Alex just stood up and walked somewhere and picked up a black-edged sword with a black and purple hilt. What is it? Issei asked, barely getting up, seriously damaged by exhaustion. First sword Armandel, my sword, said Alex, looking at his sword anyway. Go take a shower and rest, then continue training with dark mode. I hope I can master it and not die trying, Issei mentioned, smiling. You can handle it, I'm sure of that, but you still have to be careful, Alex said as he cooked something to eat. Issei went to change his clothes while he began to think about the events that had happened recently. First, the abandonment of his ex-harem, although regarding that subject, there was something that worried him, as if something did not fit, but he would leave that for another time. Then there was his entourage and new girls. They are powerful and beautiful, and most importantly they loved him and he loved them. Besides, the way he captivated each one of them made him laugh at himself before he gave compliments and hints without even knowing it, but it worked for him even though he didn't do it on purpose. How he conquered Venelana, Penemu, Gabriel and the others will be explained in later chapters from their perspective. Thank you for your understanding. Let's continue. Without giving it any more thought, he went outside and began to meditate under a waterfall, doing so for hours, but no matter how hard he tried to master dark mode, it was very difficult for him because he could only maintain it for a few seconds before deactivating it because it was getting out of control. At that moment, he looked up to meet Alex's gaze, who was sitting on a rock. Clear your mind, don't think about how dangerous that technique is, just think about how it will help you, how you will use it, and why not think about what would happen if you lose control, said Alex, eating a sandwich with bread and bread. Issei listened to him and stopped thinking about the risks of that technique and thought about how it would benefit him, and it worked because the darkness covered him and they were in perfect harmony with the. Well, I did it, said Issei, standing up and then jumping for joy, but when he did he reached the stratosphere. Wow, it really enhances physical ability a lot. Good time to go down. With that, he formed wings out of the darkness and descended to the ground at high speed. When he landed, he caused a small earthquake. You see? That's how easy it is to master that ability. The next abilities I'll teach you will be the same as dark mode, except they'll be harder to handle. But to handle them correctly you must stay calm and prevent anger or hatred from controlling you, because even if they're in harmony with you, it doesn't take away the fact that they're dark abilities. So when they feel like you're having too many negative feelings, they'll try to control you. I'm telling you that just in case. Alex said, getting up and walking towards Issei and then giving him some water. Drink this water, it will help your body withstand the following abilities, but first, invert the cross that's hanging around your neck. Issei nodded and took the glass with that crystalline water and inverted his cross, starting to emanate demonic aura, and drinks the water, but when he does, he feels as if he is burning inside. Ag, what was that? It burns, Issei shouted, kneeling, vomiting blood. Water blessed by the gods, capable of healing any wound in another god, but if you are a dark being, it is as if you had drunk lava and now enter dark mode, said Alex, taking out a bat and start running. Issei, neither slow nor lazy, entered his dark mode and the ardor had disappeared. He was about to say something, but he shut up and rolled to the side, dodging a blow from Alex that hit a tree and said tree flew into space, completely destroyed. Say it a little more and you won't count it, eh? Alex said calmly. Get out of there, soldier, Mika shouted, and Issei ran away like a soul that the devil was after. Reminds me of my training with Tannen, Issei thought, running with all his strength, dodging the countless blows that Alex threw. Underworld Surzich's office. In the office of the red-haired Mayu, Saji was standing with a drop of sweat on his neck as he watched Sona and Serafal fighting over who would marry them first. I will marry Ice-chan first. Did you hear me, Sotan? Serafal shouted at the top of her lungs, launching attacks left and right. None of that, one Isama, I will be the first to marry him, shouted Sona, dodging her sister's attacks by launching her own. Surzich's for his part was hiding behind an armchair with a soldier helmet and soldier suit trembling, hugging his legs. Ajuka was stamped on the wall unconscious. Fablium was asleep with half his body buried in the ceiling. Azazel was crying, hugging Shemazai, who was also crying because they were in the middle of the crossfire, and Michael was in the fetal position begging for his life. At that moment Yusaka, Penemu and Gabriel arrived, and when they saw the Citri sisters fighting they asked Saji why they were fighting. At that moment Surzich's made signs for him not to tell him why, but Saji didn't see the signs and told them anyway. I see, said the three with a wide smile, but the dark aura they emanated said something else. I will be the first. They each shouted and then launched their strongest attacks that unfortunately Azazel and Shemazai received. Back with Issei. He was lying on the floor covered in blows and bruises all over, and Alex was eating a sandwich of bread with salt. Well, with Kuroka, Benilana and Lafay. They were watching the other girls fighting over who would marry Issei first, but the three of them didn't care as long as they were with Issei, they were happy. While on the battlefield, I mean Surge's office, a real war was taking place as the girls' attacks came and went, crashing everywhere. Stop please, exclaimed Surzich's scared, sticking his helmet out over his trench where he, Saji, Michael who was traumatized and Azazel and Shemazai who were seriously injured were. The moment Surzich's poked out his helmet it was disintegrated by an attack from Serafal. At that moment Volley entered, but he dove to the left, avoiding an attack from Yusaka. I barely arrived and it was already raining blows, exclaimed the albino crawling, dodging the explosions courtesy of Penemu. At that moment Dulio enters. I arrived, I saw the women fighting, attacking each other left and right. I'm leaving running. Surzich's watched as a stray attack from Gabriel mistakenly hit Dulio. Terrible, let's pray, said Surzich's and tried to pray, ignoring that he was a demon causing himself a horrendous headache. Meanwhile Rossweisse was with Office and Yura preparing dinner, ignoring the cries for help from the boys and the war cries of the girls. It seems like there's a war going on over there, Office exclaimed, looking at the meeting room in Surzich's office. Yeah, well, who's hungry, said Rossweisse, serving the food. Back with Issei. He was waking up, but he felt that something was missing, then he noticed it. And my arm. Issei shouted, pointing where his right arm should be. Ah, I'll amputate it. In a few hours I'll regenerate it. I'm applying some modifications to handle the darkness attacks, said Alex, drinking lemon water that tastes like Jamaica, but is made from tamarind. Ah, now, said Issei, closing his eyes but remembering something extremely important. He grabbed his cell phone and saw 55 missed calls from his mother, 93 messages and 120 voicemails. It means danger. Somewhere. You could see a woman with high heels, long white hair reaching her thighs, a white tail as long as her hair and red eyes shining, looking at the moon. I found you, said the smiling Femina, and jumped, starting to fly quickly, surrounded by azul rays grabbing her shadow. Guo Academia. The blue-haired woman with a stoic and cold look could be seen walking through the halls of the academy, making her heels click with each step she took. Everyone stared at her. The women were somewhat envious of her beauty and the men were filled with desire, but there was something they all agreed on. Her presence was very frightening. So here is the bearer of that damned unhappy dragon, thought the blue-haired girl, clenching her fists and starting to smile, scaring the men. This time you will suffer a lot and you will not escape, Drag. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.